Hello and welcome on behalf of the Edmonton Flute Association to Flute Talks, an original series that talks about all things flute. Today our guest is Chenoa Anderson. How long have you played the flute?
Oh, and I have to do the math almost. So I started in junior high school, as many people in Alberta did. So that's 35, 36 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
That's a
Okay,
long
awesome.
time.
That's great. That's awesome. And if you can go back from there up to now to kind of give us your story or your journey from then to now.
Right. Well, I think I've been really fortunate. My parents realized that I really took to playing the flute early on. I started in the band program, again, as many kids here do, with wind instruments. And they enrolled me in lessons quite early on at Alberta College. So I studied with Carrie Riddick a long time ago. And she was just such an encouraging and warm teacher, and quite wise, I think. So I really enjoyed my studies with her, and she encouraged me to try for things like the Alberta Honor Band and to go to summer camps. So back then it was Music Camrose. It's now Music Camp Alberta and it's in Red Deer. And oddly enough, I actually taught there maybe a decade ago for a few years. So it sort of felt like a full circle
How cool is
progression.
that?
I
That's so
know.
neat.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I think it was really her encouragement that sent me into university studies in flute. And she's a Toronto native, and U of T was one of my top choices for schools. So I applied to there and McGill and UBC and got into all of them and chose U of T. So I did my
Well done.
undergraduate, yeah.
Yeah.
So I did my undergraduate there and then went to UBC for grad studies.
hmm
Um, and that was a sort of another fortunate accident in a way that my sister was already studying in Vancouver at the music school. She's a violinist. And one of my favorite professors at U of T, who is actually a Renaissance literature professor, mentioned to me that his son was teaching composition at UBC. And he's like, oh, so if you go there, you should look him up. And so I did. And Keith Hamill is the composition professor. And he was one of the first people in the music department that I talked to. And that really got me into working with composers, in my graduate studies and sort of set me on the path to new music, which is my main
Nice.
activity now.
Is that right? Okay, so you're um, mostly playing contemporary.
Yes, it's my primary practice, and
All
has been
right.
for quite
Oh,
a long
wow.
time. My other
Oh
love
my
is
goodness.
Baroque music, but
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, me as well. Um, yeah, it's so enchanting and it's spiritual. It sounds spiritual to me. It sounds, really calming. Yeah, nice. Um, okay, so you also teach, is that right?
I do. Again, the pandemic has
Slowed it down a
quickened
bit. Yeah.
quite a lot. I teach
Okay.
at home, and I haven't been totally comfortable having people in the
In the
house
home.
during the
Yeah.
pandemic. Being a wind player, endangering my own breathing seems like a terrible idea. So, well, I think a lot of performers and teachers have just been feeling this absence from their lives over the last 2 years. And now that things are opening up again, it's so exciting and also so exhausting, just getting back to what used to be normal levels of activity.
Right. Yeah. Good point. Well said too. Yep. Um, so I was reading in your bio that you have a few CDs. Um,
Yes.
how many CDs do you have?
So I've recorded two solo CDs, and then I'm also a chamber musician on several other ones, or part of a more anthology style CD. But my solo CDs are Krishna's Flute, which I think was 2013 or 14, and it's all music for flute and live electronics, so interactive electronics. And this ties back to my association with Keith Hamill, actually, who is just a brilliant composer and brilliant music technologist, and had this fantastic piece called Krishna's Flute for interactive electronics and flute. And yeah, so it's kind of the keystone piece for the album. But all of the other composers are people that I've worked with quite a lot in the past, including my partner. My partner Ian Crutchley is a composer as well.
Is
Um,
that right? Is that how
yes,
you met each other?
yes, it was at
Nice.
UBC, and I was just sitting in the bookstore waiting for another colleague, and this random person came up to me and asked if I would play on their graduate composition recital. And I'm like, sure. And that
Who
was the
knew?
beginning. I know.
Nice. That's an excellent story. Thank you for that. Good, good. So does he compose for you as well?
Yeah, so there's a piece of his on each of the CDs actually. Yeah, and we've worked together in a lot of other contexts. We're in an improvisation sextet together called Damn Magpies.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah,
How do you find improv? Is that come easy to you?
it's scary but exciting and so rewarding. So actually, last summer, in one of those little windows in the pandemic where things were opened up a bit, we actually recorded an album with Damn Magpies and Dweneman, the poet Sheena Robinson, and it was her project. Like she was the artistic lead
Awesome. Oh my
on it.
goodness.
But it's a series of spoken word poems with free improv behind them.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's called
Wow.
Bellow, and I'd really encourage everybody to check it out because Sheena is
Absolutely.
brilliant and a force of nature. She is really amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. So we go to the internet and look up Bello, and that's how we can.
Yes, it's a Bandcamp release, and actually Glass Publishing, so the publishing arm of Glass Bookstore in Edmonton, just published the chapbook of Bellow. So it's a beautiful 9 by 9 chapbook with all the poems in it.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. That's brilliant. Um, and is there a way that we can find as well your music? What's a good way to find that?
So tricky because of course they were recorded on CD and almost nobody can even play CDs anymore.
Hmm.
Um,
Is there a way
I
it can transfer from CD to MP3?
Yes, and I think Krishna's Flute, it was published by Earsay Music in Vancouver, and I suspect you can get a digital copy through them and also through Empreinte Digitale, which is a Montreal label.
Okay.
It used to be available through the Canadian Music Centre, but I think they're divesting from all print recording media now.
Okay. Divesting, that's a good word. Yeah. Okay. So if you have a quote or a tip or something, a piece of advice that a mentor or teacher in past has told you and it kind of has stuck with you, do you
I
happen
think
to know
there's
what that would be? Or um,
I think there's two small things that have really stuck, and weirdly, neither of them are from flute players. Um,
okay,
well,
interesting.
that's
Cool.
how
Yep.
things go. But I do find people in other disciplines can sometimes just get past all those barriers that we set up for ourselves as flute players and
Very well
just,
said. Yeah, exactly.
the history and baggage of our instrument.
Yeah.
So I, I was at the Banff Center. I've been there for a few summer sessions, and at one of the sessions, Richard Armstrong was doing his extended vocal techniques classes, and I sat in on one. And he had pianists singing so far out of what you would consider a normal vocal range. And I mean, they're not even trained singers. They were the pianists who were in the accompaniment program at the center.
Awesome.
But it was so inspiring to just see what was possible when you stop putting all these limitations on yourself.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of my friends, who's a female pianist, was singing so low, it was unbelievable. And I'm just like, I want to do whatever the equivalent of that is on flute.
Fantastic. Well said too. Yeah, that's inspiring. Just saying that story and hearing that it was actually a pianist, and it shows like the capacity of our brains too, like what we can do. That's really good. Thank you. And for our final question, Chenoa, what is something most people don't know about you? It could be flute related, it could be something else. Your
It's
favorite
sort
food?
of
I don't know.
adjacent, I guess. Oh, favorite food. There is no favorite food. All food is
All
favorite.
food is good.
Um, Maybe some people don't know that I actually started as a violinist. So I was a
Is that right?
Suzuki violin student from the age of 3. And then, like I say, when I hit junior high school, I took up the flute and played both for several years until I realized that the youth orchestra was never going to accept me on flute if I was still playing violin because they always needed violinists. And I think that
Ah,
was also the point where I realized my sister is a born violinist and I am not.
you're a
So,
born flutist. Good,
yep.
good. Okay. Excellent. Those are really good things. Well, that's our time for today, and short but sweet.
Before we sign off, we'd just like to thank our sponsors, Bishop and Mackenzie, Way U and Company, and the Alberta Foundation for the Arts. Without you,